It is extremely important that we stay vigilant, my friends. We need to pay very close attention to what's going on in our local communities and what's going on in the world around us, because it's getting out of hand out there. There's something that happened in my very rural community, way out here in the middle of nowhere. Something happened that I wasn't even aware of until it was almost too late. And that was 100% by design. They set it up that way. They did not want the people in this community to know. What is the thing I'm referring to? It is an AI data center. They are intentionally putting them in the middle of nowhere, in very inconspicuous spots in rural communities, so that they can basically absorb the farmland, so that they can use up all the water, and so that they can use all the electricity. And they were going to put one in right here in my rural community. And it was going to be very detrimental, because it was actually getting installed next to a substation, a power station, and it was going to be sucking all the power away from that entire county, which is, again, very close to me. It was also going to be sucking out all the groundwater, because they pull all the groundwater up from the aquifers and they use it to cool the AI data centers. And this is all at the detriment of the local communities, because these data centers use more electricity and more water than the entire county and the entire cities that they are installed in. And we didn't know about this. And again, this was very intentional. They did not tell the people about this until 2 days before they were going to sign on the dotted line. 2 days. And then they put a very small sign out, and they had an arrow pointed to this massive farm that I pass all the time, and it said future home of an AI data center. And then they quietly stated that they were going to have a public hearing, and the county erupted. For good reason, because everybody knows, or everybody is starting to catch on to the fact that these AI data centers are using, again, a tremendous amount of power and a tremendous amount of water. So everybody was up in arms because of that, and because nobody wants to look at this. It was going to take up hundreds and hundreds of acres of a local farm that's been there for generations, and it was going to be smack dab in the middle of a community. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants their power bills to increase 4 times over, because they're already going up. Nobody wants their water bills to increase 2, 3, 4 times over. Nobody wants to turn their taps on only for no water to come out. So people, they banded together. And this is an amazing thing to see. So what happened is, again, they sent these messages out. They told the local communities very quietly that there's going to be an AI data center. We're going to have a hearing in 2 days, and that's when we're going to sign on the dotted line. So people turned out, and not only did they turned out in mass. And for this to be a local community, there were thousands and thousands of people, to the point that they had to expand the parking out into a field. And as a matter of fact, there was a line getting into the place that was over a mile long of cars. So that just goes to show you that when something happens, when something comes knocking on our doors and it gets a little too close to home, and it's a little bit too close for comfort, people start to wake up. They start to take action. And thankfully they did, because there were enough people in there signing petitions and voicing their concerns that they actually put a stop to this AI data center.
Hundreds of residents came to the Meade County Fairgrounds on Tuesday to discuss this rezoning application, which would pave the way for a data center. So many people came that they had to change buildings.
A line of people waited to get inside a planning commission meeting Tuesday to speak out against a rezoning application. It would change more than 130 acres along Joe Prather Highway from residential and agricultural to industrial. WLKY obtained the application, which says it's requesting the change for a proposed IT infrastructure facility. Donald Dowell's property backs up to the site.
They expel wastewater, which is going to go right in the ground, and I'm going to pump it out. I'm on a well, not city water. So it's, for me, obviously, just bad, bad, bad. All these people standing there here will tell you the same thing.
The zoning application says the facility would run 24/7 and employ around 100 people. Many neighbors raised concerns Tuesday about what this would mean for water and electric usage, noise, and property values.
We are already struggling as farmers. We don't need something else to fight against. A lot of farms using well water.
The location it is at, as far as the value add and benefit of having this rezoned to be industrial, it's impractical.
Please allow our rural community to stay as it is, quiet, peaceful, and rural.
After hours of public deliberation across 2 packed meetings, Meade County issued its final decision on a proposed data center, saying they don't want it.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
The decision comes after an intense dispute over zoning regulations and impact on community resources. The data center would have been built on 135 acres of farmland, zoned Agriculture 2, Residential 1. The owner of that land had asked for a change to light industrial to sell the land for an IT infrastructure facility. The name of the interested buyer was not disclosed to the public. Neighbors and the surrounding community were not on board. A petition opposing the change gained over 2,500 signatures, and hundreds of people in Meade County attended a Tuesday afternoon zoning meeting to speak out in opposition. Public comments pushed that meeting over 5 hours.
Every single person we have talked to all week has lied to our faces.
I feel that this data center is absolutely not what this county needs.
The Zoning Commission listened, voting unanimously not to send a favorable recommendation to the fiscal court to rezone the site. Momentum continued hours later with an overflowing courthouse as the fiscal court prepared to make their final decision. Many of the same speakers returning to make their voices heard once again. The fiscal court ultimately ruled in the public's favor, officially blocking the land's potential sale with another unanimous vote.
And this is the power of community. This is the power of unity. This is why we need to quell the division and come together over common interests, common goals, and common ideas, because we are much stronger together. If nobody turned out for this, there'd be a data center out there in a couple years' time, probably a year's time, and our electric bills would be going up. Nobody would be able to afford it, and everybody would be suffering. And the worst part about this is that the county and the city and the state knew about this data center 2 years ago. They've known about it for 2 years, and they just now said something 2 days prior to them signing on the dotted line. And that was another thing that really ticked people off, and for good reason, because they withheld the information. They did not want the people to come and oppose this because they knew they would. And this is what they're doing. They're doing this all over the country. And as a matter of fact, they're doing this all over the world. They're scaling these AI data centers to the moon. And it is literally for tyranny. It is not for chatbots. It's not for all the stuff that we use AI for. It is for digital IDs.
Big change could be coming to how you prove who you are. Utah State is considering rolling out a digital ID to help prove who you are in your online dealings.
Today, I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
It's happening in Mexico. Digital currency just announced today. We went full biometrics. They said it was voluntary, and it's not. It's being asked for at airports and other official offices. If you want to get any benefits from Mexico, you got to give your iris, your eyeball, along with the fingerprints. It's being mandated. The last thing they need to do is a digital passport.
Now, the digital identity will be effect in the European Union. Right after this agreement, Commissioner Breton said, now we have the digital identity wallet, we have to put something in it. And what he meant was the digital euro, also known as the central bank digital currency.
It's for the social credit system.
There is only one line in this whole article which for me is absolutely critical, and that is that it's going to be so easy to do all of the things that you've just said. You can even collect your supermarket loyalty points on it. That is the scariest line in that whole article. You know why? Because eventually, Kai, when we have this whole thing where you can't do anything in society without your digital ID, not only will you be able to collect your supermarket points on it, which sounds all lovely, when you've eaten too much beef because you've overstepped your carbon footprint, it won't let you buy it at the tills. When you go to fill up your car, it won't let you put petrol in. And when you haven't been a nice person online, it won't let you get on an airplane. This is the start of a social credit system. It's wrong, and everybody should say no, and I will say no. We have a passport. They know who I am. That's enough.
Everywhere she goes, Ouyang Hauyu is followed. What she buys, how she behaves, is tracked and scored to show how responsible and trustworthy she is. It's big data meets Big Brother, expanding how the government monitors, understands, and ultimately controls its 1.4 billion citizens. Thanks to advances in artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and a web of more than 200 million surveillance cameras.
It's for carbon credit systems.
The UK has just concluded a trial of a personal carbon dioxide allowance.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker.
This is terrifying. In the UK, they're starting to label food with a carbon score. Like this sandwich, eating this uses 8.1% of your daily dietary carbon allowance.
It's for digital currency.
The one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it as a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition.
All this infrastructure is for surveillance.
I could not domestically surveil U.S. citizens legally, so with CIA analysts and money, the CIA created a company called Palantir, which is a private organization not bound by U.S. law or the Constitution, and the CIA is now using that to spy on Americans. And they're also working against or at the administration to create digital currency called stablecoin, which will be run and modulated by the new project Stargate, which has just been announced by the administration, which is total AI takeover of the U.S. government and U.S. government operations.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data.
We're about to launch one of the biggest advertising campaigns in HHS history to encourage Americans to use wearables. It's a way of people can take control over their own health. They can take responsibility. They can see, as you know, what food is doing to their glucose levels, their heart rates, and a number of other metrics as they eat it. My vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
We've got Trump in office talking about resetting the dollar with stable coins. That's not by coincidence.
So at the recent Eastern Economic Forum in Russia, one of Vladimir Putin's closest advisors said something that got a lot of attention.
Америка прямо сейчас пытается поменять правила на рынке золота и криптовалют. Вспомните, какой у них долг – 35 триллионов долларов.
He said, the United States is preparing to use crypto and stablecoins to secretly devalue its entire $37 trillion debt. Now, this might sound like some crazy theory, but a version of this story has been said before by billionaire CEO of MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor. He actually advised President Trump to, quote, dump all the US gold and buy Bitcoin. How realistic is this, and would this actually work? Because I think the answer is, it's not just gonna work. It's gonna be inevitable, and I think it's going to happen.
It's for all of this digital stuff that we simply do not want in our lives. And people need to wake up and see that, because there are a lot of towns and a lot of communities that this is happening in, and they're sneaking these things in there. And in some places they haven't been so lucky, because there have been some places where people have turned out and they have shown up in mass amounts, but the county or the city or the state does it anyway. They basically disregard the people's opinion and they do whatever they want, which is going to happen. But it's very important for us to step up and start voicing our concerns about these things and speaking up about them now, before this stuff starts knocking on our door, because there's a pretty good chance that if we wait, it's going to be too late. we may not have the opportunity to show up to the courthouse or to show up to the public hearing and voice our concerns. We may miss that very silent message that they send out, and we may not have a chance to voice our concerns. So if there are certain things in life that we oppose or that go against our beliefs, we need to speak up about these things. We need to quit being silent and just sitting around waiting for things to change, because change is not going to happen for us. Change is going to come from the bottom up, and that all starts with us. It starts with our dollar, as a matter of fact, because where we spend our money, and even more importantly, where we spend our time and attention, that's where the money goes. Unfortunately, it is spent using things that could benefit from AI. And that's how they sell it to us. They sell it to us in the sense that this is going to result in automation. It's going to make our lives easier. We're going to have information at our fingertips, and we'll have everything we could ever want. But when you really look beneath the surface and you peel back the layers, that's not necessarily telling the whole story, and it's not necessarily the truth. And in a lot of cases, some of this stuff, the truth can be kind of dark, but it's important to see the truth. It's important to understand what is actually happening around us, because when we see that, that's when we probably want to speak up. Because for most people, a lot of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes is stuff that we oppose. It's stuff that goes against our beliefs, and it's stuff that we would probably want to speak up about. So again, it's important to do that now. It's important to do it before it's too late, because there will come a time for certain that it is too late. And at that point, we'll go to bed one night and we'll wake up and it will be utter tyranny. We won't recognize the world around us. And I can assure you that we do not want it to get to that point. We want to avoid that at all costs. And we avoid that at all costs by being vocal, by pushing back, by voting with our dollars, spending our time and attention on the things that actually matter. Because the truth about this is, the things that matter to us little guys down here at the bottom, it's a lot different than the things that matter to the people at the top. Because obviously, AI data centers and scaling AI infrastructure is a lot more important than growing food, because they were going to absorb hundreds of acres of farmland, and the food that was grown there apparently doesn't matter more than this infrastructure. This infrastructure that's only going to bring a couple dozen jobs, and that is going to suck away everybody's power and suck away everybody's water. That data center is more important than the people. It's more important than our food supply. It's more important than our food sovereignty. And the worst part about this is that a lot of these data centers they're putting them in rural communities. Again, they're doing this kind of under the radar, so they're kind of burying these things out in the middle of nowhere. And by doing that, they're sucking up a lot of farmland. And here's another bad part about this too, is that the reason they chose the location they chose here in my rural community is because they knew about this 2 years ago, like I mentioned. So for the last 2 years, they have been installing solar farms all over the farmland out there. They have taken up thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of farmland to install these solar farms and to put this massive electrical grid in so that they could put this AI data center in under the radar. Nobody knew that's why they were putting solar farms in. They just assumed it was going to feed the power grid. And it was, but that wasn't the actual reason. Again, there's always an underlying reason. When you peel back the layers and you really dig into this, the truth is kind of dark and it's kind of uncomfortable, but it's very important to see, because the reason they were doing that is so that they could sneak this data center in there under the radar, and the power would be in place. They would have the infrastructure to power this thing. So now in my rural community, we have lost thousands of acres of farmland to solar panels, and we almost lost several hundred more acres of farmland to this data center. Again, this just goes to highlight how our beliefs and our priorities differ majorly from the people at the top. And this isn't all about AI data centers. This is true for everything. I mean, think about all the stuff going on in the world around us. There's a lot of stuff that we oppose. There's a lot of stuff that we're very unhappy with, that we should very much be pushing back on, that we should not wait to be vocal about. We need to start stepping up. We need to quell the division. We need to unite, and we need to make sure that we voice our concerns and stand firm in our beliefs. And while I am very much a realist, I'm also very optimistic, because I felt a shift. I know that people are starting to see the truth. They're starting to wake up to the fact that we've all been fed a bill of lies that is a mile long, and people are starting to dig their heels in, and they're standing firm in their beliefs. And the great thing about that is that there are a lot of like-minded people out there. And when people see that, they see people drawing the hard line in the sand, and they realize that those people have the same beliefs and the same mindset they do, they start to do the same. And that is where unity comes in. That is where we start to create change. That is when we come together over common ideas and common goals. And the common goal here is to just make the world a better place, to reverse the hands of time and to undo some of this crazy stuff that's been done. And I truly believe that if this continues, we're going to make that happen. I believe that we do 100% hold the power for change if, and only if, we unite and we stand firm in the things that we believe.